Have you ever seen a ladybird flipped on its back? It's waving its legs, putting in 100% effort and absolutely exhausted, but it's going nowhere. And that is exactly how being a 3D artist used to feel for me. I was working 10-hour days, polishing my portfolio until 2 AM, watching tutorials on lighting techniques I'd never actually used, and I was still stuck landing tiny projects that barely covered my rent. I thought the solution was obvious: work more, learn more, get better, and I genuinely believed that if I just mastered one more technique, brought one more plugin, or spent another weekend perfecting a personal project, the big clients would finally notice me. But here's the cold, hard truth. That's gonna hurt. It's not your skill. After 18 years in the industry, working with architectural firms, interior design studios, super yacht builders, and automotive brands, I can tell you something that most people don't want to hear. I've seen artists with average portfolios make tens of thousands a month, and I've seen world-class technical geniuses, people who could model anything, light anything, render anything, still struggle to pay the rent. The reason you're stuck isn't because your renders aren't good enough, it's because you have a thermostat setting in your brain that is literally sabotaging your career before you even get started. So today I'm going to show you why you're stuck on your back like a ladybird, and I'm going to show you exactly how to flip over and actually start moving. Stay to the end because I'm going to give you a 30-day sprint that will change how you think about your career forever. So let's talk about the thermostat. Imagine it's a freezing day in January and you set your house thermostat to 20 degrees, and if someone leaves the door open, the temperature drops to 10. And then what happens? The heater kicks in, it works overtime, and it blasts the house back up to 20. But this is the part most people miss. If it's a boiling hot summer's day and the house hits 30, the air conditioning kicks in and pulls you back down to 20. And your career has a thermostat, and it works in exactly the same way. When I first went freelancing, my thermostat was set to a pair of hands for hire. To me, normal was earning just enough to pay the bills and maybe buy a few beers on a Friday. And that was my 20 degrees. That was my comfort zone. And every time I got a big win, I landed a decent project or had a good month, I'd suddenly get tired, I'd stop doing outreach, I'd spend 3 days watching Netflix, telling myself I'd earned a break. And my internal air conditioning was kicking in because I didn't feel like a person who earned big money. I felt like a pair of hands for hire who survived. And the opposite happened too. When things got really quiet and the money dried up, I'd panic, I'd hustle like mad. I'd send out hundreds of emails, I'd say yes to any project at any price, and the heater was blasting me back to my set point. But I never actually changed the settings. If you're positioning yourself as a pair of hands right now, then you are capping your income, and let me explain why. A pair of hands is a technician. You're someone a client hires because they don't want to do the work themselves. And when you're a pair of hands, you get paid like a pair of hands. And there's a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber that completely rewired my brain on this. He talks about the roles inside of every business: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And most of us start as technicians. We're brilliant at the craft, we can model, light, texture, render, but we never make the jump to thinking like an entrepreneur. The technician asks, how do I make this render better? The entrepreneur asks, how do I make this render sell? And if you want to increase your income, you have to stop being a technician and start being a specialist. And a specialist doesn't sell renders, they sell solutions to problems for people who have money to pay for them. So if you tell a real estate developer, I can create a cool 3D house, you're a pair of hands. If you tell them, I create visuals that help you sell out your apartment 6 months before work starts, then you're a specialist. The work is exactly the same. The buttons you push in the software are the same, but the identity is different, and until you change your thermostat, you will always find a way to stay stuck at the same level. Now, the biggest excuse I hear for not moving towards that specialist identity is, my portfolio isn't ready yet. This is the perfectionism trap, and I'm going to do an autopsy on it because I lived inside the trap for years. Let me tell you about a project I spent 3 weeks on early on in my freelance career. It was an interior scene, a kitchen, and I was obsessed with getting this marble countertop right and making it absolutely perfect. I'm talking about tweaking reflection values by 0.01, adjusting the mat for hours, 3 weeks on a kitchen render. And you know what the client said when they saw it? Looks great. Can we see the living room too? They didn't really even notice the marble. They just wanted to see the whole flat so they could show it to buyers. And this was a real turning point for me. Even though I didn't fully understand it at the time, I was building work to impress other 3D artists, but the people paying me, they had a completely different criteria. So here's what I've learned after 18 years. The gap between what we think clients need and what they actually need is enormous. You spend 6 weeks on a render, tweaking the materials on a piece of fruit that nobody's ever gonna look at. Why? Because you're scared. Perfectionism is just a fancy suit that fear of visibility wears. If you never finish a portfolio, you never have to send it to a client. And if you never have to send it, you can't be rejected. It's a safety mechanism in your brain, and your brain is protecting you from the possibility of somebody saying no thanks. The person who ships 70% good work every week always beats the person who ships 100% perfect work once a year. So your work is already good enough. Trust me, if you've been doing this for more than a year, your technical skills is likely ahead of 90% of what businesses actually need. So let me repeat this because it's super important. What businesses actually need. You want to build a masterpiece, they don't need a masterpiece, they need a result. The problem is you're building a portfolio to try and impress other artists. You're chasing validation, you want people on ArtStation to leave fire emojis, and guess what? Other 3D artists don't have any money to give you. Buyers don't care about your typology, they care about certainty, they care about, will this help me sell flat, or will this help me launch my product in time? So stop over polishing and start publishing, because while you're at home tweaking the lighting, someone with half your talent is landing the clients you want because they weren't afraid to be seen. This is exactly why I built Future-Proof 3D Artists. We don't just teach you how to render, we help you recalibrate your internal thermostat. We move you away from being a pair of hands and we turn you into a specialist that high-value clients actually respect and pay accordingly. If you're watching this and realize your thermostat has been set to survival for too long, it's time to change the setting. Check out Future-Proofed in the description and let's talk. So let me tell you about the exact moment my relationship with money changed. Early in my freelance career, I remember working out my hourly rate and it was less than I'd earned as a teenager. But I couldn't charge more, not because people weren't willing to pay me more, but because I didn't believe I was worth more. That was the thermostat again. My pricing was a direct reflection of how I saw myself. So the shift happened when I was on a call with a potential client. They were a property developer, and I quoted them something low. I can't even remember the exact number, but it was embarrassingly cheap. And his face said it all, not in a great bargain way, in a should I be worried about the quality? That hit me like a brick. My low prices weren't attracting clients, they were actually scaring them off. To a serious buyer, cheap means risky, and if you come in low, they don't think what a deal, they think what's wrong with this. The people who could afford my higher rates were easier to work with, they had clearer briefs, they paid on time, and they respected my process. My income went up and my stress went down, all because I changed the number on my thermostat. So if you're undercharging right now, I want you to really sit with this. Your price is not a reflection of how many hours something takes, it's a reflection of the value you deliver. If your render helps a developer sell £2 million worth of apartments, what's that render actually worth to them? And I can already hear some of you saying that's fine for ArcViz, but my niche is different. But it isn't. I've worked with architectural visualization, interior design, product visualization, automotive, super yachts. I've coached artists in motion design, medical visualization, and anything in between. And the principles are identical. If you're in product viz, do you think the brand launching a new watch cares about your wireframe? They care about whether the image makes people want to buy the watch. If you're in motion design, do you think the agency cares about your particle simulation settings? They care about whether the animation stops the scroll and gets the clicks. If you're doing medical visualization, do you think the pharmaceutical company cares about your node tree? They care about whether the visual explains the mechanism clearly enough for the surgeon to understand it in 5 seconds. Every single niche has the same structure. A buyer with a problem, and money to spend, and an artist who can solve that problem. The thermostat concept works everywhere. The 70% rule works everywhere. The shift from technician to specialist works everywhere. So stop using your niche as a hiding place. It's just another version of the perfectionism trap. I can't do this yet because my situation is unique. It isn't. The details are different, the fundamentals are the same. So there is another reason that your thermostat is set low, and it's the people you are hanging out with. If you are in groups where everyone is complaining about cheap clients and how AI is going to take your job, then you are breathing in toxic air. These people are setting your normal. If everyone you know earns £1,000 a month, then £1,000 feels like the ceiling. But the moment you sit in a room with someone charging tens of thousands for a single animation, your brain breaks. Suddenly, your high-end goal becomes their starting price. Early in my journey, I realized if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I intentionally had to find people who were 5 years ahead of me. And when I saw how simple their boring systems were, I realized I was making it way too hard. You need to find a community of future-proofed artists, people who aren't just learning software, because software changes every 6 months, but the way humans make buying decisions hasn't changed in 10,000 years. If you master the boring foundations, you become irreplaceable. And that is exactly why I built the community I run now, because I needed that room when I was coming up and it didn't exist, so the link is in the description. Speaking of boring, let me tell you about the single most unsexy thing that transformed my business. It's a follow-up tracker. That's it, it's a spreadsheet. I know you were hoping I'd say it was a secret AI tool or it was like a viral content formula, but no, it's a spreadsheet where I track every person I reached out to, when I contacted them, what I said, and when I needed to follow up. And here's why it matters. Most 3D artists send one message to a potential client, one. And then when they don't hear back, they assume the person isn't interested and move on. But here's what I learned. 80% of my deals closed on the follow-up, not the first message. The second, third, or even fourth touch point. Not because I was being pushy, but because people were busy. Your email landed on a Tuesday and they were in back-to-back meetings, and by Thursday, they've forgotten. Friendly follow-up on Friday, now you're top of mind. And my tracker is simple. It has columns for the name, company, date of first outreach, what I sent, and the next follow-up date. And then every Monday, I'd spend 20 minutes following up, and that's it, 20 minutes. That 20-minute Monday habit is worth more than any tutorial you're gonna watch. I teach this exact system in my Future-Proof program, but honestly, you don't need a fancy setup to start. Open a Google Sheet right now and create these columns. Start tracking and you'll be shocked at how many opportunities you've been leaving on the table because you've sent one message and you gave up. So how do we actually fix all of this? Here is your 30-day sprint. I'm gonna make this as specific as possible so you have zero excuses. Week 1, choose your dream buyer. Stop trying to work with everyone. If you work with everyone, you're a commodity. So write down every type of client you've ever worked with or want to work with, and then pick one that excites you the most and has the money to spend. Not your mate's startup, a real business with real budgets. Research 20 companies in that niche. Find their websites, their LinkedIn pages, and the names of the people who make creative decisions. Study their existing visual content. What are they using now? Where could 3D make it better? Write notes on each one. This is your ammunition. Week 2, create conversion content. Stop posting just the final render. Nobody cares about another pretty picture with no context. Pick one project from your portfolio and write the story behind it. What was the brief? What problem did it solve? What results did it deliver? And post it wherever your dream buyers spend time. Write the caption that focuses on the problem you solved, not the software you used. Do it again with a second project. The 70% rule applies here. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to exist. Week 3, the 70% outreach. Here is the key. These are not sales pitches. These are helpful messages. I noticed your latest development in this location. The renders on your site don't do it justice. I put together a quick concept of what the penthouse could look like, no strings attached. Or I saw your project launch on LinkedIn. Have you considered 3D animation for the next one? Here's an example of what that could look like. So lead with value, attach something useful, and make it about them and not you. Week 4, review and double down. Check your tracker, who opened it, who replied, who went quiet. Send follow-up messages to anyone who didn't reply. Keep it light, just bumping this in case it got buried. Look at your conversion content. What got engagement? Do more of that. The goal isn't to get views. I've had work with 2,000 views make me more money than work with 20,000 views because I was talking to the right person about the right problem. Your portfolio isn't an art gallery, it is a business asset. If you keep doing what you've always done, if you stay on your back waving your legs, you're going to wake up in 2 years' time in exactly the same spot, just more tired and probably more anxious about AI on top of that. But if you flip over, you fix your thermostat and you focus on the boring foundations, I promise you the next 12 months will change everything. I've seen it happen many times now with the future-proofed crew who came in thinking they needed more skills and left realizing they needed more strategy. The ladybird doesn't need stronger legs, it needs to flip over. So come join the free community, apply to join Future Proof 3D Artist, and if you want to see the exact system I use to turn total strangers into clients, you need to watch this video next. It's where I break down the full engine for 3D Artists step by step. I'll see you over there, and I'll see you next week.